Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tech and Sci with an Asian Guy. I'm Sea-Dogs. I'm going to take you through 3 games of mine, starting at a 625 rating to end about 643 on the day. So in my first few videos, I put out an early answer. Why watch mine? Because you came to see blood. You came to see, and maybe you can't help but laugh when something goes terribly wrong for me or my opponents. As chess players, we all go through it. Some of the great wins and the tough losses. I want you to see those as a beginning player because I don't want you to be discouraged as, like me, going through early parts of learning chess, that it happens. So secondly, if you're new to chess, and I'm a poker player, you meet a lot of opponents and you try to understand why they do what they do. Yes, sometimes it's fine to resign and you may not be able to salvage a position. And that's okay. Other times, like this first game, you got to see it through. So these are all 3 30-minute games. Initially, this is probably my third game, 559 versus 643 as the ending scores. So opponent is white, and I'm playing with the black pieces. Opponent begins with e4. I respond with e5. I kind of just want to be principled. Opponent develops and puts out another pawn to defend. So I'm going for maybe a quick setup. I want to get a King's Indian setup, and I want to, quickly short castle here. So bishop out to e3, knight out to its traditional position. Queen comes down, so this is a battery coming right at me. So I have to respond. If I put the bishop here and absentmindedly do that, I'm going to have the queen sitting right on h6, which isn't good. So that's kind of my game plan. I had to undevelop a little bit and figure out how I defend this h6 square, preventing just absolute catastrophe. Knight comes in. I put the bishop out to this square on h5. Knight should not move here, but if it does, I have the ability to take it. Because the battery is coming in now, if the knight moves, I get the bishop for free. So they attack my knight. I need to move it out of the way, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with it. So I take here in order to free up this space and attack the pawn and kind of set up the battery coming right at me. Now, I lose a couple pawns here. It's not looking great, but my strategy here is to sacrifice the knight, take with the queen, prevent those pawns from coming too far forward. Now I still have a bishop to block. Opponent moves back out of the check because it's not defended. So I'm trying to get to a reasonable position. Queen takes here for check. Now at this time I am up 2. So my goal here is, if they offer the queen trade, I'm going to take it. But they block with the bishop. I get to short castle. I'm not exactly in a great spot, but it's good enough. So I want to lure my opponent into taking this piece because I can get a quick setup. So with the pin piece here, the bishop cannot move, and this allows a checkmate. So the next move was queen takes and mate. Now, in the second game, I'm also playing as the black pieces. Now this is one that I learned. Always follow the ABCs. Well, more like checks, captures, attacks. Always integrate that thought process into your play so that you're looking for those types of forcing moves. So, e4, e5. Now, this is also an early queen attack as well. One of the goals when the queen comes out early is see what can it attack. Now, the queen won't take here. The goal is most likely I need to defend the pawn so that it doesn't just get captured and with check, and then I lose the mobility of another piece. So knight comes out to defend, bishop out. So this is very similar to a white setup as the Italian, with the queen out here on h5. Now I attack the queen because I've defended the pawn where it will naturally go. Queen moves. Knight out. Bishop out. I want a short castle, King's Indian style here. Now they do pin my knight, but I do have it protected with the queen, so this is going to be kind of not great. So it would be takes, 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 and now we get the queen. If they add one more piece to that, it's not going to be good for me here. So I do decide to castle, given the relativity of this position. So now what I want to do is kind of force the queen back to its starting square or some sort of safe square and continue my development. Maybe bishop out, maybe bring the rook to the party on, let's say, b8 here, e8, support that center. So now I am blocking in my bishop here, but the goal instead is to get a quick attack, much like, in a sense, like the Caro-Kann, so that it takes, takes, and the bishop has to evacuate. So that's exactly what happens next. My game plan did work there. So they are forcing me to choose on my knight, but I decide instead here to take the bishop and trade that for the knight, because that allows me to take here. Queen comes out but doesn't attack me directly. It's attacking the pawn but not my queen per se. So I defend, and what my goal here is, and I didn't realize it, I'm looking for checks, captures, attacks, but I was playing a little bit too quickly in this 30-minute game, because as you'll see next, opponent takes, and I have a direct line on the queen. I wasn't looking for that because I was going to take, and then my next game plan was check, so I was looking for the check here if the knight took my pawn, but that wasn't the right thought process. My rook attacks the queen. I should have just taken it. Opponent resigns. So that is game number 2. Always look for checks, captures, and attacks. Now the third game is a very interesting game. Another opponent playing with black, I get my d4 set up with white that I so love, also brings out the queen early, and that also has been a sticking point of mine, so I want to kind of show you here. Sometimes solid play allows you to see the game through and gives you some options that you may not have had if you got a little too scared. So d4, e6, I'm going to bring the bishop out to f4, traditional London here. Now, the goal of the early queen attack is just to take the bishop, but we defend. They attack my bishop, so I need to move it. So, a logical game plan here, move it to the open square. A good move for them is potentially, blocking, maybe making some room. They may not have a lot of options here, but this gives you a little bit of a starting idea of my goal here is to take that rook. So opponent checks, seeing that their rook is under attack. I attack the bishop, blocking the check. Bishop moves back, and given the move order, I still get to take the rook. Knight develops, but due to its location, I also get to, while I'm not really developing many of my other pieces, I'm gaining material. So queen comes out to attack it. I kind of just want to get to a safe spot here. I attack the bishop and prevent ganging up on me on around this area here. Bishop moves back. I could almost trap it, but it's actually sometimes better. Even if you do have a game plan to trap the bishop, sometimes it's better to play solid. They're giving themselves an escape square anyway on a7. So now my goal is to play solid. Watch out for this pawn, because I need to know if I check with the queen, which is not always a safe option, what is the next logical move? Most likely going to move the bishop to block, and then I have to move my queen. Do I have a safe space after? Yes, this pawn right here is my goal. Knight moves back, queen moves back, and opponent resigns because they are down 8 points of material. So just by playing solid, sometimes you're able to put yourself in a position where if you got scared, got your own bishop trap, things like that, it doesn't always work out. So you always want to look for attacks too, what makes sense, what's difficult for your opponent to defend against. So at the end of the day, I'm at about 640, 43. My goal is more like 900 to 1,000. So this is a learning process. Thanks for joining with me, and appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Hit like if you like, and we'll see you soon.